Hi, everybody. It is Friday and it's almost 2 o'clock, and I have somebody I'm really excited about having on today, as I am all my guests. But this one, Jordan Samuel, I've known him for a few years now, and actually I'm going to ask him when I get him on how long it's been. I'm actually excited to see what color shirt he's wearing today. I thought, I'm just going to wear black because he's going to have something colorful on, I'm sure. So I love Jordan. He is a really super friend, but he's amazing because he has a lot of heart. He is an esthetician, and I'm going to get him on. I want him to tell you about him because he's somebody really special and is doing a lot of really special things. So let me find him on here. Okay, waiting to connect. Hi!
Hello.
Did you hear me? I was just going to say, did you hear me say, I knew you have these gorgeous shirts of all colors and you always look so great. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good, Jordan. Thank you for coming on today. I just said to the audience then that I was going to ask you to share your story, just how you got into skincare. Just give us your bio.
Absolutely. So, interestingly enough, my whole life before skincare I was a ballet dancer. So I trained in ballet my whole life. I moved away from home when I was 15 to study in New York. And then I danced professionally in Seattle for 11 years. And that's when I actually discovered my passion for skincare. Because I always say I was blessed growing up. I don't have the story of hormonal acne or teenage acne or breakouts. Like, I didn't do anything to my skin I was lucky. I was lucky. I know I was lucky. I was lucky. But because of it, I never really got to experience sort of the joy that I did have for it, which I found out eventually. But then when I started performing professionally 6 times a week, sometimes 8 times a week if it was like nutcracker season, and wearing super heavy makeup, sweating, rolling on the floor, touching your face, washing your face multiple times, putting on the makeup multiple times. So I'd wake up in the morning, I would cleanse, I would come in, I would warm up, rehearse, then I would get ready for the show, put on makeup, then I would remove it off, then I would have to come back in for the night, do the night show, excuse me, put more makeup on, wash it off. And really, at the theater, I wasn't doing a full routine, so my skin was just disastrous. And it was through that interest I started getting facials, and I started looking into skincare and products and what would work and what was working and what wasn't working. And then I just realized I had this huge passion for skin and skincare. And I always sort of wanted to have a brand, but I knew if I had a brand, I wanted the depth behind that. And so I wanted to go to school for aesthetics. And so immediately I retired in June, and in August of that same year, so it was, I think, like a month and a half total, I was in aesthetic school, already starting my next career. And that was almost a decade ago now, so 10 years.
Wow.
Which I can't believe time truly flies. And so that's sort of a little background on me. And then through that, I started working at a spa in Seattle because I wanted to, as if I would have known you at the time, I know that you would have said this, but I went to a spa that was the biggest spa that had the most clients. I wanted to get my hands on skin and I wanted to practice. School was helpful and lovely, but I wanted the ins and outs. I wanted my hands on skin, on different skin types, different skin conditions. And so I went to the biggest spa in Seattle to do that. Then I left and started training in product education for Kate Somerville in the Northwest region, actually. And that was more, again, to get more depth in the industry, more understanding of product and product knowledge and understanding, and also talking to people out in the world and what women and men wanted from their skin and their skincare routine. And then shortly after that, I decided to go out on my own in my own facial practice. And then eventually the products started to come after that. But right around that time is when I met you, and I'm trying to think when the actual date was, because I feel like it's been at least 6 years we've known each other now.
Yeah,
I think it's long.
Yeah, it's been
if not more.
Yeah.
if not more.
Well, you know what, I always say this, but when you know, what's great is after you do training, it is great to go to different people and have facials and just see what it is you like, you know, that they're doing, and what it is that you don't like, and be able to incorporate that into, you know, your own unique treatment. So
It's
I
the
think, you know, over the many years for me too, I had gone, it's been a long time since I've had a facial now, but, you know, gone to many different people, and then you know, there's things that you're sort of conscious of, and it's a great learning tool to do that, to go and have facials with people that you look up to or you hear about, and you want to know what's so, you know, what they're doing that's so great, and that the, you know, the people are loving. So I think it's a really great thing to do for esties to do that straight out of school.
I think it's one of the biggest recommendations I would have. Absolutely. It was
Yeah,
something that I sort of did as a sort of enjoyment for myself, and then realized, oh,
yeah,
I'm actually getting a lot out of this, you know,
yeah,
whether good or bad, like things I want to do, things I don't want to do.
yeah. No,
And I will
absolutely.
say, for the people out there who probably already know this about Nerida, but the first time I went to Nerida, she's a class act. And she said, oh, you're Jordan, we've been emailing. She said, so you need me to talk a lot during this facial for that exact reason, about why you were doing what you were doing, what was happening. And since then, like I say, I'm from the school of Nerida Joy.
Well, I always say when esties come and see me, I always tell them to give me more time. I need to block out more time, allow more time than they've already told you. But because I want to make sure that that we cover everything, that I can give them as much as I can when they're on my table, and whatever that looks like. You know, if they need help in skin, you know, analyzing skin, or whether it be talking, you know, to customers about prescribing, whatever it is, it's like, no, we need more time, because I want to give that time. You know, Jordan, what I really wanted to talk to you about today is something that, you know, both you and I have spoken about a lot to our clients, a lot to our audience, and yet it's still something that is just not understood. And you know, sometimes I feel, do I have to stand on my head and speak? Like, what is it that I have to do? You know, what animation do I have to do for people really to hear this? Because it's all to do with cleansing. You know, what I find is that the amount of pictures, I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday in Taiwan, you know, all these consultations from all over the world. And when I see photos of people and I zoom in, it's always, you're not cleaning your skin well enough. And I don't know how else to say it to people. But, you know, a lot of them are still using foaming cleansers, living in dry climates with sensitive skin. And so you know, I really want to talk about that today with you, because help me, you know, we have to get across to these people. So many cleansers out there are foaming, and I don't understand.
I don't either. So yes, I don't know what we need to do. But no, I agree. The thing is, I think we just have to keep repeating ourselves with that one until people understand, because it really is. I know you've been known for saying, and I've quoted it on my Instagram, quoting you on my Instagram, but cleansing is 50% of your regimen. 50%. Meaning, right, you might be using more than 2 products, but it's how your slate is set up, like you always say. And yes, it truly is one of, if you get somebody on the right cleanser, and if they've been on the wrong cleanser, but the rest of the routine is correct, it can really very quickly change their skin.
I mean, night and day. I hear it all the time. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's when I change people, even when they've got an oily skin, it's like, you know, an oily skin, a lot of people feel when they have an oily skin that they don't want to do too much. And that includes, they don't even want to cleanse it too much. You know, they're too afraid to even touch it, other than, you know, if it's not something that's going to burn and fry their skin. It's just, give me the strong stuff and let's not worry about anything else. But it's so important. And, you know, when you just change that strong foaming cleanser, you get it off their shelf and you give them something more gentle that just sets up a slate now ready to accept the treatment products that they want to be putting on their skin for their acne. That's when they start to see results. But
Exactly.
that foaming cleanser is just such a disaster in setting up a, you know, an irritated, dry slate oil. Nothing can even get out. I mean, sometimes when I go to extract the skin, it is so hard to get a blackhead out.
Oh,
I mean, the
yes.
blackhead itself is as dry as anything, you know, and it's just, it's really hard to work like that. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to change it. I mean, it's hard to change it in that unless they swap out their cleanser and, you know, just move things back a notch, are a lot more gentle with their skin, with that first step, that's what really changes everything. And I need to tell people, what do we have to do?
And you know, I think another thing that should be a good clarification, especially for people that are more acne prone or oily, is that a non-foaming cleanser does not have to mean an oil or balm or even a milk cleanser. You can have a water-soluble non-foaming gel cleanser. They do exist. You know, there's the Rejuvi cleanser. There's my Matinee cleanser.
Absolutely.
So that is, I think some people hear no foam and they immediately think over-nourishing, which it's not. You know, it's just not stripping and not hydrating.
Yes, no, exactly. It is that. You're absolutely right. They do sort of feel the balms, or it's going the milk cleanser, which is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the lighter, you know, water soluble, the gels. What are some of the ingredients in the cleansers that you particularly love? You know, like that you have in yours that are so great. Because I know your cleansers, you have do you have 2 or 3, don't you, in your line?
I have 3. Two are very similar. Just one's more a version one, but and one is more like a gel nourishing, has a little bit of oil in there, and one is a true water soluble, oil free, non-foaming gel cleanser. But you know, things like aloe, I love aloe. I love glycerin because I think they're 2 amazing ingredients that help soothe. They're humectants. They help buffer back any surfactants that could be in a cleanser. Chamomile is lovely, especially because I feel like so many people are sensitive or sensitized nowadays. And then really, really gentle surfactants, you know, things that are going to lift up the dirt, oil, and grime, but that are buffered back accordingly so they don't strip and foam, they aren't a high pH, and they aren't drying the skin. You know, if there's no better time really than now to get people to understand how or why they shouldn't be using a foaming cleanser, because it's my hands with how much we've been washing our hands. I mean, we sort of have been our whole careers, right, in aesthetics, but I mean, I've even amped it up a lot. And so if you see that dryness and irritation on your knuckles, that's what's happening on the skin. And yes, you're putting moisturizers on, but if you ever feel that you can't get to that, over that next hump, it's because of that. It's because you're setting up, as you always say, your slate wrong.
And don't you feel sometimes too that like people overwash? Like, you know, even if they do have the right cleanser. I mean, I've had people come and say, well, you know, I like to work out in the morning. So, you know, I wash my face when I get up, I go work out, I come back, I wash my face again. You know, and when they say wash, they're doing the whole regimen again with the
whole
wash.
yes.
I always say to people that, you know, in the mornings you can just rinse with water, like lukewarm water. You know, not everybody has to use a cleanser again in the morning if you've done your full regimen at night, which of course is the most important time of the day anyway. But I find that people, you know, they go do things. They you know, they come home from work, they wash their face, they go to the gym again. Well, you know what? I just find that, you know, some people they wash too much, and washing too much is not good. So, you know,
I completely agree. That's what I say about working out, especially if you're working out in the morning. It's the easiest time. Splash with water. Go work out. Then if you do want to do a regimen after that, fine. But then you have the back-to-back washing happening. And then you can do a cleanse, and then you can do your night routine. But no, I completely agree. No, I think, I really like to think, you know, the skin does know what to do. We just have to help guide it along gently with the correct tools, the correct products. And yeah, we like to interfere a lot in our own skin, don't we?
Yeah, and those cleansers, Jordan, that, you know, tend to be stripping, that have, you know, high alpha hydroxy acids in it, that have the beads in it. I mean, I say to my clients, it's really important, you know, yes, cleansing is 50% of your regimen, but you just want to set up a clean slate. You don't want to irritate it. You don't want to over dry it, because then, you know, nothing can get out. And that's a hard thing for people to understand, because a lot of people are using cleansers that are stripping still. It changes the acid mantle in the skin. And then anything that they put on their skin after that is just it just doesn't work. It's like that cleansing is so important. So, you know, you've got to keep it simple. You've got to clean your skin and do it with, you know, especially at nighttime with, you know, I know you've got a cloth. I say washcloths. You've got a great cloth too. But, you know, it's really important to clean your skin, but don't strip it. Don't over dry it, because anything that makes that skin feel tight and squeaky clean is just a problem. Whether you're dry and, you know, oily with surface dryness, so many of my clients that come in to see me with oily acnetic skins, 99% of them are surface dry. And I have to take their skin back to basics. I've got to really, you know, put all their products aside and say, you know what, this is what you're going to use for the next 2 weeks, because I need to get your skin back to a place where we can now start making a difference, where we can now start changing it. And, you know, I find that people are they're struggling. They're looking for, you know, another serum, or they're looking for a treatment product that's going to make their skin better. And so many of my clients use a stripping cleanser that's foaming and drying, and then an anti-aging, you know, 80-year-old, 90-year-old treatment product to counteract what they've done, because they've dried their skin out and now they're feeling really dry. So, you know, it's really important that everybody understand your cleanser has to just be simple. You know, you have to cleanse, you have to, I'm always saying, you know, work it in, get under that fine facial hair, right? Massage it in, count the 30 to 60 seconds, and really put effort into cleaning, because a lot of people, they're just too quick to do it. They're so excited to get their serum on or their treatment product. Their cleansers is like this, you know, or they'll do it in the shower, you know, and not really put effort into it. And, you know, if there's one thing I really want people to understand today is you have to cleanse with the right cleanser, not, you know, a gentle cleanser. And I'm going to say non-foaming, because most people cannot use foaming cleansers.
Right.
And I'm also going to say you're going to have to count for 30 to 60 seconds just on that cleanse. And you know what, at nighttime, if you're wearing makeup and sunblock, which you probably should be wearing one or the other, then you should be probably counting for 60 seconds and repeating it at night, you know, cleansing twice, and really putting that effort in, because every time I get a photo of somebody's skin and I zoom in on it, I'm just like, no, they're not cleansing properly.
It's so true, though.
It's so true.
The other products, as you've mentioned a million times, but again, is worth repeating. The other products can only do so much if the slate is wrong, if the surface dryness is there, if, you know, they're fighting against, you're fighting against yourself, the skin's fighting against itself with what you're doing. No, I remember, oh my God, I was still a dancer, and I went to some counter to buy maybe a cleanser, and I feel like they recommended like a more strong foaming cleanser to me. And I said, but I'm not really that oily. And she said, yeah, but like if you use this, then you can use a heavier cream afterward. It's exactly what you were saying, which at the time already to me, I was thinking, shouldn't it be like a balanced situation? Not so much that we're like removing everything to replenish it with something else, and not like actually keeping things like steady and even. So that has stayed with me clearly, because that would have been close to 20 years ago now that was said to me, and it has stuck with me. And, but no, it's so important. I'm telling y'all.
I mean, yeah, it's so important. I see it even, you know, even other professionals, they're prescribing constantly foaming things to, you know, let's strip it back and then it, you know, and then, you know, the moisturizer with it, the strong, heavy, nourishing, overly nourishing moisturizer. An oily skin does need moisturizing, but it needs more hydration rather than nourishment. It needs that to heal. So you know, the important steps for an oily skin is you have to use a cleanser that does not strip the skin back. And again, I'm going to say it again and repeat myself. I'm sorry, Jordan. But if you are an oily skin and your skin sometimes feels dry, you're using the wrong cleanser. Okay, so get off any foaming cleansers if you are an oily skin. Get onto a gentle cleanser that doesn't make your skin feel tight and squeaky clean. You know, clean your skin 30 to 60 seconds at night. Repeat it twice at night. You know, use after that, you know, exfoliation is important. Exfoliate a couple of times a week. And then use a treatment product that's not overly nourishing, that's healing, you know, which, you know, we can get into a little bit more here. But it's just, you know, these are the things that are just so important. And as I'm telling, you know, everybody that's listening out there, it's when you do this and you change this up, that's when your skin gets better.
Absolutely.
You know, and it happens so quickly. And so many of my clients say, oh my God, you have no idea. People I've never seen, but, you know, living wherever they're living. And they say, oh my gosh, I stopped my foaming cleanser and now I'm using a gentle cleanser. I'm putting time and effort into it. And it's really changed my skin. And, you know, thank goodness. But it's still out there a lot, you know, and people are having issues. And this is why often they have issues. So, you know, I wanted to talk about,
Yeah, no, another thing too is, especially for people that struggle with breakouts, is that it's not 100%, but a lot of foaming cleansers can have an alkaline pH, which is it's just wrong for any skin type or skin condition, but that's a breeding ground for acne bacteria. So it's a double whammy that's even happening, you know, in the first place. And yes, there can be pH stabilizers and balancers, which can bring a foaming cleanser down. And there certainly are those. So I don't want to like upset maybe a true oily skin that's on a foaming cleanser. But again, you can also get, I mean, the thing is, I agree with you obviously about the oily skin, a true oily skin with no surface dryness or surface dehydration able to use a foaming cleanser. But at the same time, they can also use a non-foaming water-soluble gel cleanser and have a lovely, so, I mean.
Well, that's why I say, you know, it's safer than anything, because a lot of the time, you know, you say to somebody, are you surface dry? They don't know what that means, because they're so used to their skin feeling the way it feels. When I have clients come in and I say, oh my God, your skin is so dry. And they said they had no idea that the skin was so dry. And yet you can't get anything out of the skin. And if you can't clean and extract the skin because oil pockets, you've got, you know, oil forms scar tissue, which is really what the, you know, sebaceous hyperplasias are, those little donut hardened sebum, then they have to go to the dermatologist and get them zapped. So, I mean, ultimately, you know, don't use anything drying to even, you know, dry anything that could be up underneath there. Like, you know, as I said, blackheads, even trying to get blackheads out on an oily skin that's really dry is a problem. And if you can't clean the skin well, you're going to have large pores. You know, you're going to have little bumps under the skin, which is hardened sebum. And sometimes that happens from, you know, taking Accutane in, you know, years back anyway, where this, you know, it dries up everything, obviously. And it helps some people, you know, it has a place in our business, right? But I would prefer to go with doing other things before I put or even recommend them going to a dermatologist. It's very rare that someone I know has to go on Accutane, you know, to get the results to heal acne. But you know, Accutane, it does dry up everything. And so therefore, you know, oil, you know, sebum, it hardens. And that's why sometimes later in life, the skin's a little bumpy. So, you know, it doesn't have to be that way always. And that's what I just want to bring awareness to people. You know, I really, you know, at one point I remember looking into a certain brand that has a gazillion cleansers. 99% of them were all foaming. And yet I do hear some doctors say, you know, keep your cleanser gentle. And I'm like, hooray. These guys, you know, this is it. Keep your cleanser gentle. Do a good job. Be thorough. You know, really make sure you are cleaning your face at night, because you know what? It's really important. And your skin can't be pretty and clean and have small pores if you're being lazy. You know, it just can't, it's just not going to work like that. So you do have to cleanse your skin, and you do, you know, safer route, like you say, is just why go with foaming if you're not sure if your outer layer is surface dry or not? Why even risk that? Just go with a non-foaming cleanser. And you know, some say too, well, I mean, you know, some of the things that you mentioned, the glycerin and the humectants, you know, a cleanser is put on the skin and it's washed off the skin. You know, humectants living in a drier climate, people say, well, if you're, you know, there's not the moisture out there, it's going to suck it from the inside out. But in a cleanser, it's put on the skin and it's washed off.
Right.
And it's really, you know, glycerin is it's a great hydrator. It's, you know, non-comedogenic. Generally, it's a good ingredient. Aloe vera, soothing, calming. Cucumber. You know, there's a lot of the carrot seed. You know, there's the rose petal. I mean, you know, all these things have a lot of antiseptic things in it that are gentle. But just stay away from the drying, crazy stuff. So moving on to our next step, exfoliation.
Yes.
How do you feel about exfoliants, and like, you know, for what skin types do you recommend it for, and what are some of your favorites? You know, what do you love?
So, you know, exfoliation, I really feel, and we've talked about this till we are blue in the face as well. I feel like this is now a step that people either do not enough or too much. Like, I haven't met somebody who's been like, oh yes, I've completely nailed my balance of exfoliation. You know, whether it's the strength of product they're using, whether it's the amount of times per week they're using it, or whether it's the type of, you know, whether it's an enzyme or whether it's an acid, whether it's a glycolic versus a lactic, you know, it's et cetera, et cetera. So I do feel like it is a tricky subject. For me personally, I know I have, as you have seen me, you have seen my skin lovely and balanced. You've also seen my skin completely over-exfoliated. But exfoliation to me, you know, really actually the more, so our brand doesn't have an exfoliant yet. We are working on one. But again, because I see so many mistakes with exfoliation, it's something that I'm really taking my time with and really being very picky on. But the more I learn, the more I love enzymes. Just because of their, not to downplay, I love my acids too. I love my alpha hydroxy and beta hydroxy acids. But I just feel enzymes are so much more friendly for a larger group of people.
Yeah.
You know, they might not, what they don't go as deep as certain acids. They might not give a certain result as certain acids, but in terms of a good exfoliation, just a straight across the board exfoliation, I am becoming a bigger and bigger fan of enzymes. Still love, in terms of acids, lactic acid is still my favorite, right? You can't go wrong with that. Large molecule, it's hydrating, gives you the results you want. If somebody can take a glycolic, love glycolic. But again, that can be a little bit trickier, trying to, you know, find a spot for somebody with that. But as you always talk about too, working with, you know, in treatment room, I work with the Rejuve fruit complex, like #1 and #2. You know, on clients, and it's that combination of all of the acids to work on different layers and levels of the skin. But personally, exfoliants I love the Rejuve exfoliating mask. I love Joanna Vargas exfoliating mask. I'm trying to think because I like way more than just those two, but I'm trying to think now as I talk about it. But you know what is interesting is I have had, and I would love to hear your take on this, better luck with my super sensitive skin with something like doing the Rejuve exfoliating mask once or twice a week, as opposed to finding a serum that I leave on, you know, every single, or not every single day, but a few times a week, etc. I know they're out there. I just have been, and I've tried to create my own as well. But it's something like where I can find my sweet spot is using that serum maybe once a week on my skin. Which is totally fine as well. And I think it's also good for people to know that they don't have to jump in with using it 7 times a week. I think some people do. And I think that's where a lot of problems are created. But that's my feeling on exfoliation. Love my enzymes, love my lactic acid.
I think I agree with you. I really like enzymes too. And I'm particularly drawn to, I mean, my favorite's always been the papaya enzyme, you know, PAP1. And I generally like to, you know, my exfoliant, I don't like it to have granules because, again, like a non-foaming cleanser, if I'm talking to an audience of everybody, I want everybody to be able to use an exfoliant, but not be over scratchy on the skin. I think that, you know, there is the granular exfoliants, as long as those little particles in the exfoliant are rounded and pounded, and they're not like another brand we know that uses pieces of nuts that really scratches. Because when you look at the skin through a huge magnifying
Yes.
lens, you can see the scratches on the skin. So we don't want to cause any micro scarring here. We just want to exfoliate and be gentle. So I think it's really important that the granules are rounded and pounded if one is using, and for it not, again, to be foaming, to, you know, there are some that work for some skin types that are absolutely fine. But I guess, you know, the reason why I always say I would prefer one that does not have granules is because everybody can use that. And yep. I like the ones that have that buffing, which, you know, in this case, there's a few that I could say that I really like. I like the Regimen one too, the exfoliating mask. It's reasonably priced. It has the papaya and little glycolic in it. I also, you know, Valmont has one called the clarifying pack, more niacinamides, but still a little bit of glycolic. And La Prairie also have one, the 3-minute peel. I mean, of course, those are much more expensive, yep. in the hundreds, but you know, there are ones out there that have a buffing effect on the skin, and I like to have a buffing effect. I like to be able to use an exfoliant that I can, you know, on somebody that is sensitive with rosacea. Jordan, you know, yourself has it mildly too. You know, you can add something to it to yep. make it not as aggressive. So in other words, maybe I could add a little bit of healing gel or a little bit of your hydrating mist or something to it to buffer it back a little bit, so it's not going to be as aggressive. And don't use steam when you've got it on. Yep. You know, you don't have to leave it on the skin 10 minutes. You can work it in just for a minute and then take it off with cool water. So I really am a huge fan of the buffing effect exfoliants, because they are a surface regenerative. They do leave the skin pretty, you know, and still allowing the skin to absorb and be able to take in whatever you put on your skin thereafter. So any of your treatment serums, you know, it lightens and brightens the skin, obviously, and exfoliants, removing dead cells. These things are really important. So I'm a huge believer in exfoliants, but I will tell you, using retinols at night, most nights, and AHAs every day, I do not ever use an exfoliant on my skin. You know, it's right. If I'm going to do a boost, I will use my fruit complex #1, or I'll use it there. But on a general, you know, I don't exfoliate, because once you are using retinols and AHAs, that is absorbing dead cells. And if your skin is not surface dry and you're doing everything you should be doing, your steps, then it's not always necessary. But I do find that most people with an oily combination skin definitely need exfoliation. And sometimes it could be 2 or 3 times a week in the beginning, and then yep. we bump it back. Or on a drier skin, it might be every 7 to 10 days, you know. Right. So most people, because they're not quite, they don't have their regimen quite together, they generally do need an exfoliant to help them get there. So, but I also, like you, I love the papaya. I mean, I love enzymes. You know, pumpkin's a little stronger. I mean, and of course it all depends on the formula. But right. I do like, you know, even, you know, some of the lemon, the lime, the lemongrass. I like some of the citric, you know, sometimes too on certain people. So I think, you know, the great thing about the alpha hydroxy acids and lactic being my favorite also, lactic and glycolic, is that they're all different, you know, and yep. put into a different formula. I mean, you can make them so different. And I think that's really exciting. I mean, I'm excited for when you do yours, when you come out with yours.
But actually,
I'm like, oh, it's hard.
That you said that I think are really great, again, to repeat, is, you know, a lot of these products, and I've talked about this on a YouTube video before, there's only so much a brand can write on the back of a bottle. So an exfoliant might say leave on for 10 minutes. So people leave it on for 10 minutes. That might not be right for that person. So like you're saying, if you can only do it for a minute, if you have to buffer it, those are really important things for people to hear. They can customize the product a bit to get it to where it's working for them, where they're not over exfoliating their skin, but they're getting enough out of it. Yes. And then another thing you mentioned, which we've talked about this before too, is people will use something like an AHA or a retinol during the week, many times during the week. And but then still feel the need for an exfoliant. But like you're saying, you don't need that. So that is another very important point to make, that I see people who are using like an acid toner or an acid serum every single day of the week, and then they feel they need to do these over-the-counter 20% peels, and it's just an overkill, and they wonder why their skin is sensitive and sensitized.
So upsetting. Well, you know, I always tell people with the Rejuve exfoliating mask, I mean, leave it no longer than 3 minutes. And it does say on the tube, I think 10 or 15 minutes, leave it on.
Right.
But, you know, you can wet your fingers, you can dilute it. So for, you know, for people that are asking, but my skin is sensitive, you know, I've got maybe a little bit of eczema, I've got a little rosacea, you can buffer it back. You know, you can mix it in with your cleanser, and you can do it that way. You don't don't have to leave it on the skin long at all. And I don't even recommend it, but I do recommend people working it in, you know, to spend the time. If you're going to leave it on your skin for 1 minute or two, you know, wet your fingers, work it into the skin really well, and then always take it off with cool water. Whenever you've got any alpha hydroxy acid or, you know, it's better not to use hot water to take it off, always use cool water. So it's, you know, but it definitely is something that you can buffer it, you can change it. And I mean, if you put steam to it, that's when it really activates it. So I'm not a huge fan. Certainly the Rejuve one that I use, I don't add steam to that, because most people come to me, they're a little bit sensitive. And nowadays, most people, you know, they've got more inflammation in their skin, Jordan, than ever. I mean, you know, it's something that I'm seeing so much inflammation in people. And I think it's, you know, I'm always saying, I mean, I'm not using as much steam. I'm using more ice. You know, in my treatments, I'm using more ice, and you know, those inflammation foods that you and I have had this discussion. No, those inflammation foods, those tomatoes and bell peppers and red wine and spicy. And I'm laughing, everybody, because Jordan, I've told him, but of course, you know, his Italian background, look at his face, is, you know, crying, because it does create inflammation, those foods. So sadly, it's having cooler, I saw that, cooler showers, and, you know, not your drinks not to be too hot, you know, just cooler. And I think that, you know, generally that's what I'm seeing a lot. Are you also seeing that there's more inflammation? People have more inflammation in their body?
Internal and external, right? Like I see it from, I mean, for myself too. So for myself, I feel like topically I have it dialed in now, but then I know, and especially now sheltering in place and being at home and sort of being limited with what foods we're making and what we're drinking, I felt my skin start to act up again. And I'm like, ugh. But even this, like, this is green tea, but I made it about an hour ago so I could let it cool down, because I carry that heat in my system, and it makes a difference. But yeah, no, I'm seeing people, whether it's, inflammation internally or topically or one exacerbating the other, right? Like they might have inflammation externally from overdoing exfoliants or a stronger retinol or prescription retinol. And then they're also, you know, drinking tons of X, Y, and Z, eating tomatoes. You know who's been, I don't know if she's here right now, but Liz Alaska on Instagram.
Oh, yes,
she was somebody who really like dialed into when you were like no nightshades. And I think she's been super strict about it and has really followed like using tepid water when she cleanses, when she showers, and her skin is radiant and beautiful. So no, it's really, really important.
It makes such a difference. I mean, I'm always, sometimes I go to touch somebody, I'm about to work on them, and I'm feeling like, did they just come out of the steam, or is this what I'm going to be dealing with? And sometimes it's, you know, it's a conversation I'm having with my client after that.
I think you asked me that the first.
I'm like, Jordan, you're really
in
hot.
all fairness, I do feel like
hot,
I came out
you're
of the
hot.
room the first facial. So it was a double whammy of like my skin and
but your skin is so, you know, is so beautiful now. I remember when I first saw you. Yeah.
It's getting there. Yeah, no, it's those little tricks though, right? It's everything we're talking about that really, not even tricks. It's just these very simple fixes. Non-foaming cleanser. You know, don't leave the exfoliant on as long as you think you should. Turn down the temperature in the shower. Turn down the temperature at the sink faucet. Let the drink slightly cool. Very simple fixes that don't cost anything, that
That's
really
right.
come out in great, healthy, glowing skin.
Mm. It just makes such a difference. And by the way, I mean, anything that's coming from the inside out, meaning, if someone is having a lot of, inflammation foods in their diet, that is going to affect them later in life. I mean, that's when, it does affect the blood. Then maybe they're going to have gout or something, like it does.
Right.
These things are telling us something. It's like when one has a lot of little bumps on the
Oh,
cheeks here,
yeah.
or they're getting miliars and they're having a certain kind of fat that their body's just not digesting. So, I mean, it is telling us something. And so it's not just that it's uncomfortable, or that, you don't like the look of the ruddiness. It's actually, no, something's going on the inside that you need to address for your
Yep.
future.
Yep.
So that's a really important thing. Now, how do you feel about toners? I know a lot of people, it's like cleanse tone. It's always been that way. It was told us, we were told that in school a gazillion years ago. I personally, I rarely prescribe toners unless it's someone that has melasma and I'm, prescribing them a brightening toner that's got a lot of vitamin C in it, or, the arnica or something to help calm it down. But how do you feel about toners? Because I know a lot of people talk about it.
So, we have a hydrating mist. That hydrating mist, I always recommend, slash, people can use that as a toning step if they like. It is not meant to be a toner. For me, it's more of a midday refresh. It's full of humectants.
Yes.
So when people, want to get a little bit more, or to mix in with certain other products, like you're talking about buffering back things. But a strict toner, on a cotton pad, wiping it on is not something we will probably ever come out with, not something I recommend, not something that I'm anti, so it's not that I would say if somebody has it in their routine, like, you must throw that out. I just think it's extra and not need it. To your point about like specific toners, I can see, a lot of people like to get their acid in the form of an acid toner. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine if they want that. However, again, with the inflammation and the irritation we're seeing more of, I prefer them, if they're going to use a leave-on AHA, I prefer it to be in a serum or a cream form. So it's a little bit
Yeah.
more buffered back. It's a little bit
Yes.
further away from the skin than an
Yeah.
acid. But if some people's skin can take an acid toner, so be it. But yeah, to me, it's not, that is never something that is sort of a recommendation or a step that I feel
No, I
isn't.
feel the same way you do. I think that, if you're going to use an acid, I mean, use it in your treatment product, whether it be your treatment serum that's going to stay on your skin, or your treatment cream. But I find when people have a toner in their regimen, they're usually not cleansing their skin properly, because they're thinking that toner is that next cleansing step. Like, that's going to clean my skin, really.
Oh,
You know what I
right,
mean? So,
right.
so again, it's, for me, it's like, no, I really need you to clean your skin well, because
Oh
that's
yeah, I'd
what's going
rather
to
a
keep
simple
the pores small.
cleanse than a toner. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then, that way, as I said, I rarely prescribe toners, but I do find that people that have them, they're the ones, very often, that are not cleansing their skin right in the beginning, and using that toner more as, well, let me just get off a little excess here.
Yeah.
But sometimes I find toners, I think that, honestly, in the market out there, unless you are a drier skin and you need some type of stimulation, like, I think everything that someone puts on their face, it has to have a purpose.
Yep.
You don't
Yep.
just use this because the brand says that, within a line, there's a lot of products.
Yep.
I think that, what's right for you. So if I have somebody that likes to use a toner and they just say, no, I like to use a toner because it makes me feel good, and they believe that it's good in their regimen, then I'm going to give them a toner, but it's going to have a purpose for them.
Yep.
I think that the toners, a lot of people with oily skin tend to feel like toning is really important, but yet I tend to give toners to people that are either more the melasma or the drier skins over the ones that are more the oily skins, because the oily skins, I want them to clean really well. I want them to exfoliate really well. And rarely, sometimes the toners for oily skins, they change the pH. They mess it up. So I think that I tend to stay away from the toners for oily, but tend to give it, if I'm going to be giving a toner, it is going to be more for a dry skin, and something that again, has a purpose for them.
Agreed. Always.
Yeah.
Always. Well, that's the other thing too. I mean, a lot of toners are rich in humectants, so this is not 100% the case. But if there are, a lot of people do use, especially oily skin types, a more astringent toner. So if they are following a really good cleansing regimen of cleansing twice, but then they insist on using an astringent type toner, we're getting into that over cleansed, over stripped, surface dry. Like we're back to the same, square one that we talked about in the beginning. So yeah, exactly. It's just something that's not.
And you see, the other thing that people don't realize is that, toners that are actives, like for oily skin, they stimulate sebaceous glands. So they make oil glands more active. There's a lot of ingredients that are stimulants. Yep. So, it's important. And most that are antiseptic based, they're stimulating. So they activate sebaceous glands. So, yep. It's just really important to understand that everything has a purpose. It changes the skin, the acid mantle on the skin. It changes the pH. Sometimes just simpler is better. Getting Always. Back to basics and just cleansing. Doing great cleansing. Doing good exfoliation. Keep the skin hydrated. And so and for a dry, more mature skin is layering. I really believe in layering, yep. Protecting the skin, from everything, lighting,
yep,
agree. The weather,
agree, yeah.
Corona.
yes. God, yes.
So yeah, so crazy. I wanted to say something, Jordan, too, about when you mentioned people doing acids and doing more at home, sort of in this time right now. People, are looking at themselves a lot more in the mirror, I think.
Yes.
And maybe not liking as much what they see because they do have too much time on their hands and therefore going the stronger route. I've had a lot of people text me asking can I please use something stronger? Can I get something stronger? A couple of them have really burnt their skin in doing so.
Yes.
And, it's just... how can we tell people not to go there,
No, it's such a great thing because so actually everything we're talking about right now is perfect. Now, to me, is not the time to up the strength of anything. It's to really nail your at-home routine. Yeah. Because if you're nailing your at-home routine with a great cleanser, with a great exfoliant, taking the tips we've talked about, turning down the temperature of the water, layering, protecting your skin. Also knowing that layering can be with the same product, just a few layers of the same product. It doesn't have to be.
That's right. Absolutely.
Things. You can create a really strong, a really vibrant, a really healthy skin. And then you aren't going to need the strong things. You aren't going to need to, after this, go out and get things that are inflammatory, in my opinion, to the skin. Yeah. Really strong peels, lasers, things like that. So to me, I would just beg people to nail their at-home routine and then look at these simple things that we're talking about. Stay away from the strong things because to me, I've heard people say they're going to try something stronger and I think like, great, perfect, do what you need. But then they come right on back. Oh my God, I burnt my skin. My barrier's all messed up. I have bumps all over. I mean, I've done it. That's why I'm also like, know all the things that happen when you do it. But knowing that at this time, like a really consistent, strong at-home routine is so important. It's so important. It's going to pay off way more than up.
And maybe change up a serum or something like, change up your moisturizer. Just don't go doing crazy things. I just the reason why I asked this, mentioned this to you and was asking your opinion here too with helping me get across to people is because I did hear another influencer, saying, well, this is the time to go stronger because if you burn your skin, you've got your home, no one's going to see you. And I know, I saw your face right now. It's like, but I heard them say, this is a time where, it can, it doesn't matter. You can kind of fix it up. It's, melasma is very tricky. You go too strong too quickly, you're going to make your skin blotchy. And you know what? Sometimes you're dealing with that for the rest of your life. Sometimes it takes one really crazy thing and you're dealing with it for the rest of your life. So if we can scare people to just stay, change up your serums and, just don't go too strong. I mean, it's like with everything, isn't it? Whether they're having surgery, overfilling, you know, whatever it is, it's just, you know, get
But then
out
they
of
don't
here
have,
and
I
get into
know.
here. Do some
Yes,
reading,
exactly.
right?
But that's the thing too. It's like they don't have the basics dialed in either, which is
Yeah,
that's where it gets really scary. It's scary by itself, but then to
yeah,
me it gets really scary because they don't have the cleansing dialed in. They don't have the sun protection dialed in, the
yes,
layer of the products, the feeding of the skin. So it gets really dangerous too because then, yeah, talk about fixing it. People always want to know how quick they can fix their barrier, if they've broken it down, if they've irritated, if they inflame their skin. It can take months. Or you can be in a vicious cycle too, because if you
yeah,
keep trying to tiptoe back in, again, no firsthand, but if you keep
yeah,
trying to tiptoe back into acids or retinols, even gentle, and you haven't really allowed the skin to rest, it's a vicious cycle. It's a
vicious
very,
cycle. Yeah, it
uh,
really is.
and the at-home peels now are 20%. They're 25%. I mean, they're strong. Like they are very, very, very strong and really should be like,
Well,
oi.
Jordan, I've had people send me bottles asking, there's 50 and 70. It says professional use only on it, and they've been able to buy it on, you know, these Amazon, these
Yeah,
places, eBay,
yeah.
wherever they're getting it. They're able to buy them. The pH is lower. In one case, it was lower than 2%.
Oh God.
I mean, and you know, I mean, she clearly burnt her face, but it's like beyond now, you know, for people to understand. I just, I can't believe, you know, as an esthetician, I can't use higher than a 40.
Right,
And I mean,
right,
we can't, I mean, I don't know what's like in Washington State where you are, but here in, you know, I can't use higher than 40%.
right.
My pH, I mean, mine's a 2.8. I can't go lower than that.
I wouldn't even want
The
to.
doctors is 50 and 70% with lower
Right.
pH. But
And I wouldn't even want to. Would you want to use higher? Like I wouldn't even want to
no,
use
I
higher.
would never.
Like,
No, I
yeah,
don't even use 40. I'm staying with
right, right.
25. You know, I am all about being very consistent with your regimen. And it's
Yes,
like your diet. It's like exercise, anything. It's like if you want good skin, you have to be consistent with your regimen. You've got to cleanse it. You've got to do your steps every single day. And that's twice a day. And you know what? You've got to wear a sunscreen.
yeah,
You know, these things are just really, really important because it doesn't work any other way. You know,
right.
the quick fix, I mean, you know, not doing anything and then going and getting a facelift. I mean, if you're going to get a facelift, I say to people, at least prepare your skin. You know, at
Absolutely.
least work product into your skin because you know what? Your skin's going to look better. Your
Yep.
facelift is going to be better. So everything requires consistency and not a bunch of things.
Right.
Just specific things that are right for you. You
Yep.
know, we're all a little different. We all need our things, our
Agreed.
products, and certain seasons too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
you need
Exactly.
different things. Definitely more, you know, protective things in the summer months. Your antioxidants, you know, things that are
Yeah.
really going to sort of help and repel that UVA. I love you. Thank you so
I
much
love you. Thank
for
you.
coming on here today
Thank you for having me.
and talking skin and cleansers. And Jordan, you have a Tuesdays. You have a Jordan.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to have
Tuesday
you
talks.
say it because I love the way you
Tuesday
say it.
talks. It's, yeah. It's my New Yorker.
Jordan talks.
Tuesday talks.
Tuesday talks.
Tuesday talks.
So, what time is it on
I've
Pacific
been doing it
Standard
at 2 p.m. Pacific
2
time
p.m.
on Tuesdays now. Yeah, I moved it up since everybody's schedule is different now. So just trying to
Yeah.
accommodate as many people as possible. So yeah,
And I know you answer a lot of questions. I know we've had a lot of people asking questions on there.
yeah,
And hello, Britt. I'm seeing, you know, we've had a lot. Maybe Jordan, if we can come back another time soon,
yes,
and
absolutely.
excuse me, and answer some of these questions that that we've had, and that would be great.
Count me in.
And I always just love talking to you. I love you. I love what you do. I love what you do for our industry. You have a skincare line that is affordable and also very, you know, very, it's not huge. And you put a lot into it. Your heart is in the right place. I believe you thank goodness for the Jordan Samuels out there in my world, because, you know, in the SD world, we need people like you. We need people that care. We need people that are out there that have courage to stand up and speak about things they believe in and things that they don't. and you're very truthful and honest about that. And I really appreciate that. You know, you, Caroline Herones, I mean,
Yes.
you know, you guys are amazing, seriously. And I love
So are you.
He's very honest. And this is what, you know, what we need out there, because there's a lot of fluff. And,
Absolutely.
and fluff is tiring and expensive.
Yes, but that's where it comes. I mean, seriously, I mean, I love you and everything you represent in the industry, and going out and speaking and teaching and the Educate Your Skin website and the 5-star method and things that you're doing to help other estheticians to pay it forward to then help other people, help other people's skin. It's so unbelievable. And like I always say, I'm from the school of Nerida Joy, because I just bow down to you always and forever.
You're so funny. Well, I can't wait to see you again.
Yes.
And thank you so much for coming on today. And just for all the audience, I'm sorry we didn't get to any questions, but we will get back. I'm going to pull Jordan back in, and we're going to do another Q&A and answer some of these. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Jordan, I love you. I will see you soon. And goodbye, all.
Bye.
Bye.